everyone to Spirit Man Studios, and the first episode of a line of episodes that I'm going to call From the Shelf. Now, From the Shelf is a show that I am starting where if there isn't any sort of movie reviews coming out this next week, or if there's a special I want to do, I will simply grab a movie from the shelf and I'll review it. And in light of Valentine's Day already being here today, during the month of February, and since we're going to be getting an adaptation by Disney in March, I figure it is high time to review Beauty and the Beast, 1997. Now, as for me, I'm not a huge fan of romantic movies. I find them to be drab, boring, and sometimes mediocre with how many times I've seen the same copy and paste type story. But with Beauty and the Beast, I feel that is a bit different. Beauty and the Beast is definitely one of those films that I think of when I think of revolutionary for its time. See, back in the 1990s, before the 1990s, Disney had been pretty out of it when it came to animated movies. And it was really, really terrible. Because before then, you had movies that just didn't make sense. And one of the movies that really bogged down Disney Enterprises was The Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron didn't really survive anything, and it left Disney in a very empty pocket. But little did they know that in the future they would be getting into what is now considered the Disney Renaissance, which is involving the films of Pocahontas, Little Mermaid, Lion King, and today's film we're looking at, The Beauty and the Beast. This is probably one of the most important films in terms of analyzing the history of the animated Oscar nominations. Now, this film, I believe, is to be the movie that led to the making of the Best Animated Feature category of the Oscars. Now, let me explain to you why. Before this point in history in the 1990s, there had never really been an animated movie that had been nominated for Best Academy Award Picture. And, this one actually was the first one to snag a nomination. And unfortunately, that same year, it went up against Silence of the Lambs, an equally good movie, I'd say, and it beat it out at the Oscars for Best Feature of 1997. Yeah, so Hannibal Lecter really took the beast out of the Beauty and the Beast, I'd say. But leading up to that point, again, there had never been any sort of animated movie that had been nominated for Best Picture for the Academy Awards, and this broke the mold. Nowadays, we do get a couple here and there every couple years with movies like Up and WALL-E getting towards that sort of nomination. But I think that without this film in particular, we would not have the Best Animated Feature category that we see today. And, sure enough, 4 years after this movie's release, we finally get an Academy Award section for Best Animated Feature. And what was the animated feature that won that year? In 2001? Shrek. So yeah, kind of a real weird cop-out, really, because, you would think that the first award that would be given out to an animated feature would be to a Disney film, right? Well, no. It goes back to DreamWorks Animation Features, where one of the former animators of Disney actually went out and started his own company, and today that is known as DreamWorks. And what movie won that year? In 2001? Shrek. Shrek beat out Jimmy Neutron and one other movie. Yeah, no one really cared about 2001, really. But getting back on track, we have Beauty and the Beast, a movie from 1997 that highlights the beauty and essence of love. What we find to be loving. This movie teaches a very valuable lesson in love. And that is that despite what they may seem on the outside, there is someone on the inside that is worthy enough to love. And that is the true essence of Beauty and the Beast. I personally, I don't give a shit about Valentine's Day. I find the holiday to be boring. And that's not because I'm a lonely person in a dorm room that has neighbors blaring music. But yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Definitely one of the rarest animated films, or not really rarest, but one of the first animated films to use CGI as a supplement. Sorry. Uh, it was since Jurassic Park came out in 1993, there had been a lot of experimental uses with the technology of computer-generated images. And one such experimentation came in the form of, again, Beauty and the Beast. The ballroom dance scene in particular was one of the first uses of the CGI animation, aside from the Great Mouse Detective, who also did the same thing in the clock tower sequence. But this one in particular really gave this sort of new era to CGI animation a whole new level. And let's talk about the music in this film. The music in this film is one of the most beautifully articulated films I have heard from Disney. Tale as Old as Time, sang by Angela Lansbury. What could be more classic than that? I mean, aside from Elton John and Katie, If You'd Love Tonight and The Lion King, but whatever. Beauty and the Beast, to me, had one of the best soundtracks of the 1990s. And it definitely did show because a lot of people really loved the movie. So much so that this version of the movie is getting readapted in March and also getting to the point where it has its own Broadway show. I mean, who doesn't like Beauty and the Beast? I mean, it's... Okay, there is some problems I have with the film. Towards the third part of the entire film, like the third act of the film, when the Beast is supposedly killed and he comes back as a man, he just doesn't really look natural. Like, when you look at Belle, she looks like a natural person, right? But when you look at the Beast, when he turns into Beast, they never really clarify what his real name was. We're just gonna call him Beast or Adam. When he comes back as a human, he just kind of looks robotic. And that's kind of really sad, I mean, I don't know, animation is weird, but up until that point, you do have some nice character development between between Belle and Beast, both of them interacting and intertwining with their dialogue, their interactions with each other, and I found it very interesting and very curious, and a different the character of Belle is such a different princess altogether. Is that I mean, granted, during this time, in Disney, you had princesses that had, like, I want more, I want to be more, all this kind of, like they want to be more. They want to be more than just, a bland, characterless character, they had to have their own things. Ariel from Little Mermaid had, trinkets and collecting, and Belle had books and literature and finding the beauty and everything, and that's actually something very nice that Disney has done. And since then, Disney, in their princess lineup, ever since the Disney Renaissance, has changed it a bit so that their princesses have more of a character, a more defining character. I mean, look, what was it, 10, 12 years later, we had Princess and the Frog, and we had Tiana, who wants to have her own business. That's really good, and since the Disney Renaissance, everything's changed for Disney. Characters are written much more three-dimensionally, and that's what this film really brings to the table, along with Little Mermaid and Lion King and all this other stuff. Even though this is based off of a book by the same name, it still has some of the heart and emotions of the original book, that is. The animation, as I stated before, was revolutionary for its time, and it's very beautiful. You could see the crisp lines, the backgrounds are beautiful. I really like the character designs, especially for Beast, who in the remake of the movie kind of doesn't really look that great to me. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see in March. But all in all, I think Beauty and the Beast is a fairly good one. This is actually the one Disney Renaissance movie that I've watched over and over and over This is probably the most watched Disney Renaissance movie that I have watched, aside from Lion King. I find Beauty and the Beast to be fairly well done, very well entertaining, and the songs are really good. I like the soundtrack. I think it's a bit better than Moana, really, but I mean, I don't think anyone can go wrong with Beauty and the Beast. And so, with that, I'm giving Beauty and the Beast a solid 9 out of 10. It is a very beautifully done movie with intricate characters, a good storyline, a great main protagonist, a somewhat goofy antagonist, and a great male character as well. I really enjoy the hell out of this movie. It's very revolutionary, and it really did change the landscape of the Oscars even. So, until next time, I'll see you behind the camera. Peace.